Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, where we look at 4D chess from a different angle, and we tell you about what's going on with the big investment banks like Morgan Stanley and Bank of America following up on Goldman Sachs. And by the way, if you listened to us about Goldman Sachs 2 days ago, you're a richer woman or man today. You want more of that? Stay tuned for the Rebel's Edge. Bang. So Pete, you know what's not an option?
What?
Other than the book? Missing any of this about what's going on in the markets. Because again, you can go back, it's on the net, folks. As we all know, once it's on the net, it's there forever. You can go back and hear our comments about Goldman when it was, I don't know, $60 less than where it is today, Pete. It's not an option to miss this show.
It is the truth, John. I'll tell you what, it is amazing. And you and I have talked about this for a very long time. I don't hear a lot of other people saying it. And as a matter of fact, going into these earnings, I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. But you and I have talked about the idea that, hey, look, this has been the savior. The financials have been able to show us really what's going on. And by doing so, in some ways, they're giving us a little bit of a look behind the curtain, so to speak, of just how well these guys are crushing it. And we've got a few more financial names today that came out, and oh boy, they're looking pretty good as well. So I know we'll get to that, but yeah, it's always worth listening and watching and seeing, and especially seeing what the unusual option activity looks like as well, right?
Exactly. Well, let's talk about 4D chess, Pete, because Iran thought they'd be big and bad. And say, we're going to block the Strait of Hormuz. What do you think of that, Trump? And for like a week, Trump sat there negotiating with them, not bombing as much, trying to get a deal done. And the thing that they always had told us in the past that they really care about, Pete, was we don't really care about nuclear bombs and missiles. We don't really care about that. That's what the holdup was this time. Oh, yeah, we won't give that up, or you guys will just march right through us. Like we want that. There's not going to be anything left to march through, because with our Navy blocking the Straits of Hormuz, Pete, and everything trying to get up into it, they got $0, zero coming in. Now they're finally kind of figuring out that maybe they effed around, and now they're finding out, Pete, because they didn't really care about getting bombed all that much, but boy, they're going to miss that money, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what, John, as far as the macro piece of that thing, and I like your side of it, I think the other thing is that people have finally come around to something that we have been talking about at Market Rebellion, not just Pete and John, but all of Market Rebellion, because we see the unusual option activity. We see the kind of activity that's out there. And where are people buying calls? Where are they selling calls? Where are they buying puts? Where are they selling puts? So AI, I would say they've done pretty well for itself. I've heard a lot of people talking about, oh boy, this is it. This thing, it's going to blow up and everything. Well, if you subscribe to that, you're not doing very well, and you've missed a hell of a run to the upside. I'll just throw one name out there for you just to look at and keep an eye on, because it continues to go. Marvell. We could say NVIDIA. We could say, a myriad of names, but it's just amazing, how well AI actually has been able to continue to make this move. And the other thing, just real quick, that I would say, because we're going to get to this also a little bit later, but this whole thing with Robinhood, John, I mean, it's not just about the storyline today, but that is the storyline for today. But just go back to yesterday, and I look at that, and why did it go up 10% yesterday? Well, probably some leaking maybe out there. But the other thing, how about the fact that right now, when you look at Bitcoin, we've talked about this range, 65,000 to 75,000. Well, where do we find Bitcoin hanging out right now? Pushing right on some of those numbers. This is where we find it. So it's pretty incredible. And with that move to the upside and kind of, sliding up there, I think that's what really helped it yesterday for the 10%. We know what's happening to it for today, but that's something for later on when we're talking about the stocks.
Well, we broke 18 today, Pete, for the VIX.
Yep.
Got down there. I don't know if I saw a 16 print,
No.
And it might be 1780 right now or something. But what do you think of the VIX? What's that telling you?
Yeah, it's telling me the relief that people are getting and how difficult it is to maintain, John, above that 20 level, right? I mean, 2 weeks ago, we were 31. Last week, we got somewhere into the 20s. And now all of a sudden, we start penetrating a little bit farther to the downside. And you're right. We've gotten into the 17s. We have not gotten into the 16s. But the low of the day, the last I looked, was 1750. Well, that looks pretty damn accurate, John, because when you look at the kind of movement that we've had from the S&P, and we've had some very big days of movement in the S&P, today it's up less than 0.5%. It really starts to make sense again because there's less fear out there than there was. And there was some anticipation of this and that and the other, and that's kind of gone away, at least for now. But yeah, it's holding right around 18 right now. So I think it's pretty interesting, and it took a little while, a couple weeks, but here we are again. And how many people would have guessed that we'd be down here in just 2 weeks from that 31 level? Well, I think the reality is one of the things that people need to understand is, hey, look, it's very difficult for the S&P 500, which, by the way, is pushing right up against all-time highs for all those bears out there. And there's an idiot bear out there that I'm particularly kind of leaning towards. But it's funny how the bears, they love it.
That guy can read between the lines, Pete.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, the volatility index getting into the 17s is I think a pretty big deal. I guess the low of the day is 1740, but interesting to see that we're sitting right at 18 right now.
Yep. Well, all-time highs for the S&P, and like you said, Pete, those bears, turned out that is what indeed the president was talking about when he says a civilization's going to die over the weekend, and he was right. It was a bear civilization, not the Persians. All right. Take a look at this one, Pete. Prediction Exchange. Saw this one on Polymarket and was kind of surprised, but Polymarket Money, this is one of their official handles on X. They found that the CEO of Nike spent about $1 million and bought a bunch. So did the CEO of Apple. You think maybe something's going on here, Pete, with these two? I mean, maybe they just talked. Maybe they've got a product coming out. Not saying that either of these guys are doing insider trading, but both of them put down a pretty nice slice of money. And this is them individually, not their companies.
Right.
So whenever anybody puts their money where their mouth is, I want to listen.
Yep, you and I both. And it is a buy, which it's impressive to see. Although, of course, they're going to buy it. It's down to 40. It was down to $42, John. Now it's trading closer to 45.5, $46. So I see that, and $1 million for each of those guys. That's a lot different than $1 million for most people. That's a fraction of what these guys have. So is that a huge commitment? I would not call it that. But it is interesting to see that, and maybe there is something coming up. And by the way, should it start to get a little bit of lift? At some point, it's going to have to, John. And we've seen a little bit of option activity in there as well that signals that maybe it starts to move back up to the upside. But they've been struggling. And why? Because competition has been kicking them right in the teeth. And the fact that they leaned so hard on China and that hasn't worked is another problem. So Nike has kind of done a few things sort of similar in some ways to Starbucks, but far worse for Nike than Starbucks, I'd say.
Well, let's dive right into quantum then, Pete, because quantum stocks, I thought these were dead too, Pete. I thought just like AI stocks, just like the Mag 7, these guys are done. Well, turns out not so much, because if you look at QUBT, Pete, it's only up 13% so far today. Nike unveiled a new suite of open source AI models to tackle some of those bottlenecks in quantum systems. And as soon as they did that, all of these stocks, D-Wave, Rigetti, Ionic, IONQ, all of them, boom, to the upside.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the relationship, you've got a name like NVIDIA, talking about the open source AI and all the rest of this, John, and the enthusiasm that's there. You mentioned a couple of the names, and they're the same names that we're both looking at. But this D wave is pretty interesting. I mean, next week, it's going to be interesting because there's unusual options in there again. And so keeping an eye on that. And by the way, there's a lot of other names that are out there that are part of this whole world that are big names too, John. When we look at Amazon, you look at Google, you look obviously NVIDIA. These are a lot of companies that are part of this whole world of quantum. So interesting to see that we've seen some option activity in some of these names. We've seen some of these stocks moving to the upside. And if you don't want to go with the lesser known names, maybe particularly, maybe you take a look at some of the big boys that we do know and you know a little bit better. And the fact that they are still doing pretty well when it comes to quantum.
Yeah, I mean, that QUBT, Pete, trading 20 million shares so far today. The low, as everybody was giving up on this one, Pete, 576. The high right now on the day, 933. So, yeah, you're looking at almost a double there off the lows. There's a lot of good stuff going on with Rigetti and with D-Wave and anybody in this space. Mm-hmm. All right, let's hit Bird, Pete, BIRD, because this, folks, is the strangest story you will hear this week. Some of you will say, oh, what do you mean, John, with Donald Trump blockading the Straits of Hormuz? That has to be the strangest story. No. How about a story about a shoe company, Pete, that is pivoting to an artificial intelligence computing company? Seems logical, doesn't it? Well, look at that. 300% on that news, Pete. I mean, they make shoes. Yeah. Shoes. And it'd be if all of a sudden Nike said, well, we're going to use AI to help figure out which ones of our shoes are selling best to women, or to women in Korea, or to infants in Malaysia, or whatever it would be. Okay, you might say, that's different, but I could understand AI might be able to, tell them something faster than a computer spreadsheet does. But to pivot from being on running, ONON, or Nike, NKE, we just showed you Tim Cook a moment ago, or any of these, to being an AI company? Really?
Well, they're raising money and they're going through this whole process. It's pretty interesting, John. By the way, you were way off on how much it's up, because let me tell you something. It hit $24 today. It's now trading right around 19, which at 19, it's up 664%. So forget about that 300%. That's nothing.
That's so pedestrian. 300 is so pedestrian. That was earlier this morning with these notes. So apparently, I got to update them.
It's crazy as a loon. I mean, it truly is. The fact that these guys hit 52-week all-time high, $24, is absolutely extraordinary. And to your point, John, the volumes, the absolute volumes, and it is a tough one to figure out, but they're pivoting, like you said, to this. They're going from a shoe company to this. So, it could be pretty interesting, and certainly people are very attracted by this. I don't know that I think it's the smartest thing in the world, but I say that probably with a little bit of the guilt that I've missed out on this sucker, because it absolutely is on fire. BIRD is the name if people want to look at it, but just be aware of where this was just a day or two ago, please.
Closed yesterday, Pete, at $2.49. It was cratering. And it opened today at 682. So that's 100% plus to the upside. And now, like Pete said, it has hit a high of 24. The market cap jumps to $170 million. And the turnover, Pete, not 300,000 shares that had been basically trading at, but 144 million shares. And folks, if you are long this name, it's not an option to just hold on. If you do not take some money off the table, I can't pull the trigger for you, neither can Pete, but we can tell you, rarely are you going to see a company pivot from a completely different industry to this. And for it to hold that, Pete, with all the shorts and everything else that are just scrambling right now, good luck.
Yep, it's amazing. It's it's great to watch. It's a little bit dangerous, obviously, but something to keep an eye on. And just for an update, John, when you mentioned the shorts, there are some shorts out there that might have helped a lot of this squeeze, because it was anywhere north of, call it 12% to maybe 18%. So there's a little bit of squeeze going on there, and I'm sure Jeff Garbaz, who works over here with all of us, could probably address that pretty well for people.
Well, amazing.
Yeah.
Now let's pivot, Pete. We're not going to pivot as hard as Bird did, but we're going to pivot to Hood, a stock that Pete talked about that was up 10% yesterday, up again today. And why? Well, they're going to include Kalshi's prediction markets for users. They have been involved in prediction space for a little bit here, and trading activity in the prediction space has accelerated. But there's more to it, right, Pete? Because it's not just that. Maybe that's why it was up 10% yesterday, but they got another gift, as every broker did, because there was a little change at the SEC, right, Pete?
Yeah, the SEC decided that they were going to change things up a little bit in terms of the day trading side of things. And so that is something that a lot of different groups are embracing, this whole thing. The combination of that, the combination of Bitcoin making that move higher, John, I think yesterday, along with this news, is really giving a pretty unbelievably big boost for Hood. But for all the right reasons. They already had a great position going on. They've accelerated the volumes they've quadrupled, is what some of the estimates are out there for them, John. As a matter of fact, they were talking in the next 4 years, they're approaching $1 trillion. So there is a lot to be said for Robinhood. It's taken a beating. I mean, it really has. This is a stock, John, and I think a lot of that was the connection with Coinbase and the whole crypto world.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at it, this thing was a $153 stock not that terribly long ago, and then it was just kind of languishing away. Suddenly, there's a couple of news stories out there, and it's just chopping wood. 10% yesterday, 8% today. Maybe it'll be a little bit more. But I think that there's a lot of positives out there. These guys do an excellent job. So, kudos to Robinhood for what they do. But, man, they are on a roll right now for sure.
All right, Pete. Well, let's talk about one that you have talked about over and over again, with all the M&A, with every biopharma, biotech, with every cloud data center company that gets bought. You always say, well, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Jefferies, Morgan Stanley are all going to benefit from this, because they get some big fat fees for putting these guys together. And sure enough, Pete, that's one of the things that they talked about, both of these companies, MS, Morgan Stanley, and Bank of America. And you know what, Pete? We had a little unusual activity in
Really?
Bank of America. I'd like to show you guys that. Here it is, a $48 stock at the end of March. Now, it's the 15th today, so that was approximately 16 days ago. So if you were smart enough to 2 weeks ago, basically, buy some calls following the people that laid out the case for you by buying 10,000. That's a million share equivalent, folks. You're a pretty happy camper today, because as you see from that trough just above the April sign there, Pete, to today, it's been a heck of a run.
Right. Absolutely amazing run, John. And again, I think we can still sit here and pound the table and say, it ain't over. Investment banking is going to continue to do this throughout the year and probably into next year and maybe deeper into next year. I just think it's an area where these guys are so positioned so well, John. I mean, the fact that we've also had some market volatility, trading revenues, the sales numbers are exploding. I mean, everywhere you look, we talk about it all the time. And I already said earlier about the earnings themselves. Well, what kicks off the earnings? Well, it's Goldman Sachs, it's Morgan Stanley, it's Bank of America, it's Citigroup. I mean, you go through the list, and they are absolutely crushing it. And they continue to come out with unbelievable numbers. And as a matter of fact, looking at some of the other parts of the business, talking about wealth management, oh, well, they're killing it there. Revenue growth, well, they're killing it there. Year-over-year numbers. And yet these bears want to come out there and talk all this BS, John. And you and I are not perma bulls. That's not what we are. But I think we're smart enough to sit there and look and go, well, under the circumstances and these things doing all this deals and all these things that go along with IPOs and mergers and, the M&A, this whole thing, that is a feather in the cap for some of these. And that's why I think these investment banks are all, for the most part, in a great position. We still continue to hit, including today. I'll throw a freebie out for people. You're going to have to do a little work yourself, but take a look at Citigroup today. You might see some unusual option activity out there in Citi. You just might see that. I'm not going to point out exactly what it was, but I will tell you it's a spread. So understand that. But there's some option activity out there in Citigroup, and I'll let folks go from there to take a look if they want to be there. But just know this. A catalyst today is why the thing got boosted up today. So, somebody thinks there's still a little room to the upside, John.
Yep. Well, those somebodies would be right.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, Pete, let's dive into sports. And, we've already done a little Rory. We've already done Pete's favorite safety over at Oregon this week. Yep. But we also have Pete's favorite running back. And on Nigerian sports, which is coming your way soon, folks, you'll be hearing a lot more about this. But watch this phenomenal athlete, Jeremiah Love.
That's not an athlete, is it, John? I mean, that guy's going over like a 5-foot high jump to go over this guy. But it just shows you, that's a different play. These aren't all one player over and over. It's what this guy is. He is so athletic. He's so unbelievably talented. And John, finally, people are starting to understand, this whole thing in football, really, a lot of it has to do with having a good running back. And I think Philadelphia kind of opened that up for people when they decided to trade for it, or at least grab free agent, a really good running back, right? And then others started saying, well, you know what? If we got a running back, that kind of opens up the passing game. It ain't that complicated, guys. And that's why I can't wait, John. If the opportunity to become a general manager or something like that, I would take it in a heartbeat, because these same guys still haven't really figured it out. They still need offensive linemen. But this kid is one hell of a good football player. He is one of the better running backs I've seen in a while. And I would put him right up there with the Heisman Trophy winner of last year. Just the unbelievable talent that he has for the Raiders, which is part of the reason why I think the quarterback situation is going to get better and better for them, because they've got the old grizzled veteran and now they've got the young guy who's a Heisman Trophy winner. I think they've got the right quarterbacks, the right running back, and they're moving around with the offensive line pretty well too. So that tells me a lot about the Raiders. How about the UFL, John? We don't really talk much about it. A lot of people have forgotten about the UFL. It exists. They're already 3 games into their season, and it's some pretty good football out there. And I just wanted to throw out a couple of names because, John, these guys are playing in the UFL, but they want to either be back in the NFL or get to the NFL. And so I just focused on 3 quarterbacks that are having a pretty good start to the year that might be able to fill in at some stage for different teams who are maybe looking, but they're not going to be in position to get the right quarterback. One of these 3, Austin Reed from Western Kentucky. End of story right there. Western Kentucky has quarterbacks every single year. They all can launch the ball. They've done a really great job. This kid's got one of the best QBRs in the UFL. And Austin Reed's got 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, I'll grant you, it's not the same competition as the NFL, but there's a lot of really great football players in the UFL playing right now, John. There's another kid, Matt Corral. He's an Ole Miss kid. He's unfortunately thrown 4 interceptions along with the touchdowns that he's thrown, so it's a little bit too much. Jack Plummer's another kid. He's out of Cal, Louisville, and Purdue, and so he's kind of seen it all. He's got 6 touchdowns and just 1 interception. He's got the best QBR of the 3 of them at a 116. I just think that it's worth pointing out that there's some players from the UFL that when that season's over are going to transition over into the NFL and really could be a huge boost for some of these teams that probably need a really good backup or some such thing. And I think those 3 all have a great opportunity to get into the NFL. That's what's fun about the UFL. Do they have a lot of crowd participation? No. those stadiums are pretty much empty. But there's some pretty good football getting played in there, John. So what do you think about these UFL guys? Do you think some of them can maybe make the next step to get back into the NFL?
Absolutely. And from what I've seen, Pete, the Dallas Renegades are a real team to watch.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a chance, folks, do that, because what Pete said about Austin Reed is exactly right. With the 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, that's the QB for Dallas. The running back, top running back in the league, DC Defenders. But then you drop down to top wide receivers, Dallas Renegades, Tyler Vaughn's, 4 TDs already, 23 catches. That's pretty good ratio right there, by the way. And then you've got, interceptions. Sean Wade, he has 3 of them already this year, Pete, and Dallas Renegades. So if you get a chance, watch the Dallas Renegades, because if you're a fantasy football player, you might want to pick up one of these guys if they end up on an NFL team, because if they get in, they're going to surprise people.
Yeah. Secondly, John, just real quick, Major League Baseball. It's early. It's way too early to get excited about anybody, but I know you're not surprised, neither am I, that Atlanta sitting pretty right now in the National League. The Dodgers sitting very pretty. In the last 10 games, they've won 8, lost 2. You got the Padres 9-1, National League. But how about my Minnesota Twins, who just not too many miles over that direction? Started off terrible. I mean, awful, to the point where people weren't going to the games. They were actually telling people, you know what? We had 15,000 people at the game today. No, you didn't. You had 1,500 people at the game today. You didn't have 15,000. That's how bad it was getting. Well, 2 things have changed. The weather's gotten better, and the team is starting to play, John. They're 8-2 in the last 10. They've got a little bit of momentum going for them. And I'll tell you what, the good news for the fans is also this. Because the numbers were so bad and they were losing and they just stunk in the first few games of the year. I mean, literally, they were terrible, John. But they cut the prices for beer. They cut the prices on this food and that food and everything else. Genius move, right? Genius move, because people go there to have their peanuts, their hot dogs, and their beer or whatever, their pop. And now they're getting it at a huge discount because they've stuck with that for now. Will they for the whole season? That'll be interesting to see. I kind of think that they might. If they're really smart, they don't dick around with these guys. They actually keep those prices cut down. And you know what? Fans are going to be there because they get both sides of it. They get the food that's not expensive as hell. Because you and I both know beers were like $12, $15 over at that stadium, John. You know what it is now? It's like $4 or $2 or something like that.
Jeez.
I mean, they cut it, man. So really kind of fun to see that whole thing. And as far as run differential, the actual Twins are sitting number 3 in run differential as far as how many are they, getting from themselves, how many are they giving up. They're doing a really good job on the field as well.
Well, tomorrow, Pete, I'll for somewhere in sports, I'll give us Aaron Judge, because not only did he hit 2 in the same game, but he got thrown at. They threw above his head. They threw in tight on him. And what did he do? We'll show you tomorrow, but I bet a lot of you can guess. All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. He is, again, Pete Najarian. You can see right below us on the screen our Twitter handles. Be sure to shoot us a note telling us what you liked, and do you want more of the stocks, or would you like a little more of the sports, or we struck a perfect balance? Let us know. And we will be back at what time tomorrow, Pete?
1 p.m. Eastern, John. It's going to be a great day. Looking forward to it. It's our last one of the week because we always stop on Thursdays.
Bang. Have a good one, everybody.